We would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands on which we meet to share these conversations on the Vegan Compass podcast.
We extend our respect to elders past and present, as well as any of our listeners and guests. Hello and welcome to the Vegan Compass podcast, unveiling truths, inspiring change. We are your hosts, Rick Allport and Mackenzie Cross.
From wherever you're listening, please be sure to like and subscribe to support this podcast. Now to the episode.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Vegan Compass podcast. We're so excited that you're here with us today. We just wanted to let you know something really exciting. We now have podcast merch. So if you are a fan of the Vegan Compass podcast, it would mean so much to us if you could wear your support with some merch.
Drink your support.
Drink your support. Rick is showing one of the mugs, but we also have t-shirts, hoodies, tote bags. I don't know. We'll put the link in the description so you guys can access the shop. So how are you this morning, Rick?
I am awake.
That's good.
We're doing another early podcast, but it's for a good cause. So I'm always happy to be up for a good cause on our podcast.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. So who do we have today, Rick?
Well, today we actually have, should we show the book first? Yeah, let's flash the book first. We are very happy to have Kate, who has this wonderful book that she's brought out. I've got to tell you, this is an amazing book, journal, life story. It's really just amazing. So Kate, I'm going to ask you two questions. Who are you and what do you do?
Rick, Mackenzie, first I want to say I am so excited to be here with you. So thank you in advance. I know this is going to be a blast. I am a vegan health coach and I help vegans and people who are vegan at heart create a fit, strong, confident body they love, aligned with their hearts, which is so very important. I come from a background of 19 years as a personal trainer. And while I loved that was gym-based, I worked with non-vegan clients almost exclusively. And some of my plant-based habits rubbed off on them, however, not enough. And so now I exclusively coach people who want to be vegan, and that is super exciting.
Yeah, that's really cool. At least you get to, I guess, work with those people who are like-minded and you don't have to do any of the convincing stuff.
And you 100%.
And you're living your values. I mean, that's what I love. Both Mackenzie and I are working for vegan organizations, and it's taken a while for me to get around to be able to do that, but I love the fact that I start working in the day and I know I'm doing something good for the betterment of all sentient beings on the planet.
It is such a relief. And, I don't have to censor myself in every single conversation about food with clients like I used to. I learned that the hard way. And I love that you went there with values immediately, Rick, because that is so important. And that's the first thing I turn to with any of my coaching clients. And I used to go there as a personal trainer as well. If you're looking to achieve any huge goal or lifestyle change, aligning your values and the actions you need to take to achieve that goal is foundational. It's so very important.
I guess you touched a little bit on your history as a health coach, working with non-vegans, but I guess can you tell us a little bit more about the journey from transitioning to working with non-vegans to specifically working only with vegan clients and identifying as a vegan health coach?
Yeah, I've used vegan health coach ever since I went vegan 9.5 years ago, right? I just didn't really have the opportunity to spend one-on-one time in the gym with these individuals. Prior to that, I've been vegetarian for 23 years as well. So a long history of, I guess, being different to most of the other trainers in the gym, right? Like I always worked in a very gym bro type of a gym. And as I said, I'd find myself having to censor my conversations. And, that's such a waste of energy and it's not very joyful. I guess only this year I've come to work exclusively online with vegan clients. And, that was a journey. Part of it came with moving from Sydney, where I lived for 25 years. And so I'd left behind all my dear clients from my personal training business and I had to start again from scratch. And I guess it was a pretty perfect opportunity to start in a way that I'd been chasing the entire 9.5 years I was vegan, right? Same as you, Rick. When you're super passionate about what you do as a career, you want it to be completely aligned with your values. And I was seeking that. However, probably, to be frank, living in a really expensive city, having a very profitable business where money came easy and I loved my clients, even though our values weren't always the same, it was a bit of a jump to, I guess, give that all up and go online completely with my heart. And as I said, that's what I've done only just this year.
So you said you moved from Sydney. Where are you based now?
I am in Noosa on the Sunshine Coast. So left the big, beautiful city for a much calmer, slower pace of life, which is amazing.
Beautiful. I grew up on the Sunshine Coast, so I miss it so much.
I spent amazing. 25 years on the Gold Coast. And
wow.
I was originally in Sydney, then I moved to the Gold Coast, spent 25 years up there. In winter, I'd be on Mermaid Beach laughing at all my friends in Sydney who are going, it's so cold, it's so cold, it's so cold. Now I'm the person in Sydney and all the people in Gold Coast are going, ha, 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 ha.
It's funny. Yeah.
Not very funny.
For them.
Yeah. All right. So I guess in this day and age, the definition of health can mean a lot of different things, especially with social media. We're hearing, there's all sorts of, I guess, like pseudoscience out there and things that aren't really, evidence-based, let's just say. So I would love to know a little bit more about your approach and philosophy. So what is health to you?
I love this question, so much that I named my own podcast Healthification, because health to me is very much not just about the health of the individual. It is also about the health of your community. It's about the health of the planet. And importantly, it's about the health of all those we share the planet with. So to me, it is very inclusive. And that is why it is completely aligned with a vegan lifestyle.
That's a really cool answer. I love that. And I guess it's not just about physical health and physique either. It's also that mental health, which you really touch on in your book as well.
Oh, so important, right? I mean, prior to going vegan, we all think that the food is going to be the hard bit, and very rapidly we learn that the food actually becomes the easy part. We find the recipes that work for us. We find the influencers online to follow. The food falls into place, for some quicker than others. However, it falls into place. The mental health, the mindset, that component, that's the thing that surprises so many of us. It's absolutely the hardest part of the journey for me. Managing relationships with non-vegan loved ones, that is a really struggle street component of the journey. And I would say the only hard part of the journey still for me is managing that frustration, that anger, that hate sometimes that you can feel once you have seen the truth, the truth, you can't unsee it. And it's pretty all-consuming all of the time, or it can be. So self-care is a huge component of what I look to do personally and also with my clients, because most of us, we're super passionate. However, that vegan world that we're working towards, it's not going to come nearly as fast as what we would love it to. And so we have to be in the game long-term, sustainably. And that means we really need to prioritize looking after ourselves.
Well, I think that's one thing that, in my past, I didn't do that. We've talked about that quite a bit on the podcast. And, I ended up having a massive stress-related heart attack in 2020 and it took me a while to come back. And, I'm glad to be back. But emotional well-being is paramount in this world because we live in an imperfect world, but we're trying to be the best possible people, I guess, in this imperfect world, and we do have to deal with so many outside stresses, trolls, idiots, sorry to put it so bluntly, but they're there and we have to deal with them. We were talking earlier today because I do the vegan education stuff of Vegan Australia, and Mackenzie is the social media manager, and she just said, "Oh, the trolls have just found us." And I was like, "Oh, great, here we go."
Yeah, I spent 2 hours yesterday dealing with trolls.
Yeah. Same things, oh, the propaganda, you're putting out propaganda. And as Mackenzie quite rightly pointed out to them, so what about all that meat, dairy and stuff that is already in the schools? Isn't that propaganda as well? And then, of course, crickets, because she's just called them out on what's actually happening. But moving ourselves, we've sort of segued there, but let's bring ourselves back. So as a vegan health coach, what types of people are you working with? How are you helping them? And are you doing this just all online now, or do you have other avenues as well?
So it is all online, and it's international. My signature program is a 90-day transformation program called Thrive with Plants. And that is for the individual who maybe they're vegan and not as healthy as they would love to be. And personally, I see being a fit, strong, healthy, happy vegan as a powerful way to quietly advocate for the animals and the lifestyle. So super important. Maybe they're vegetarian or trying to go plant-based and it all feels a little bit overwhelming and confusing. Like, we've been there, absolutely. And so I lead them through this 90-day program that focuses first on clarity. This is super important to me. This is getting super clear on your why. It's eliciting your most important values and beliefs, and it's aligning the two. It's the foundation to your future ongoing success. You're really clear on what you want. It's completely aligned with those emotional states, your values that you naturally seek out, and all those important beliefs that you hold. And so basically, the decision-making process is eliminated, right? You have clarity on where you're going. It's completely aligned. That is the first step. The next step is confidence. And this is where the most effective eating and exercising actions come in. It's the fun part. Also, though, it's building the confidence, the self-belief in you. A lot of people are really fearful coming into this lifestyle. I actually was. I'd been a vegetarian personal trainer for a decade before I went vegan. I had a body I was really confident in that I'd sculpted over a couple of decades in the gym already at that point in time. And I thought, what if I lose some muscle, gain some fat? Heaven forbid. I was fearful. A lot of people are fearful. So we're building that confidence in this coaching program, and also confidence in managing and mastering your relationships with those non-vegan loved ones that we all sadly have. The third part is consistency. That's the boring yet super impactful component to any big lifestyle change, any health and fitness goal. It's often overlooked, but it's not the flashiest program. It's certainly not the strictest program. Consistency is key. So those are the three parts to the program. And it's a combination of Zoom coaching calls and then also daily WhatsApp support. That really brings in the consistency. People are sharing their food with me. I'm saying more plant protein needed, more green veg and such. And, it's just amazing because I was almost burnt out from one-on-one personal training after 19 years. And I thought it was the one-on-one component of it. And now when people jump on board with Thrive with Plants and they fill in their little online registration, and there's all these questions about why and what level of vegan, vegetarian, they fill it in, and the answer's just like, my little heart wants to explode, because these people that want to work with me are on exactly the same page. Their goals, their why, their vision is the same. And I get to help them avoid some of the many mistakes that I made along the way.
So it's such an inspiration. I mean, it just sounds absolutely wonderful, and it's brilliant that you're helping people. I have one quick question.
Yeah.
For a time poor vegan like me, how do you fit things in? Because I was just saying to Mackenzie last night, I sat down and it was 10 o'clock at night. I'd finished work and I just went, I have 1 hour of this whole week where I can do something for me. So how do you work with time poor people?
Yeah. I answer for myself first, and then I'll make it apply to the others. I am almost too good at saying no. And that's where it starts. Once you get super clear on your why and your vision and your goals, you can be pretty brutal with some of the things that you say no to. And I probably am a little bit too brutal, right? I also use that plant positive journal to plan my day to come the night before. And I stick to it. I tick those little things off in the journal, and I have done for years now, and that is super impactful. For the people who aren't quite as, dare I say, selfish as me, or they haven't been in a flow that works for them for a long period of time. I've worked for myself since 2008, so I've figured out what works for me. But for the other individuals who aren't there yet, I'd say start with lowering the bar to raise your chance of success. So wherever you can, take those little shortcuts. And in relation to health, this is often with your food. Early days vegan, I'd make all my beautiful green smoothies from like fresh organic green veggies and berries, and I'd do all the washing and all the meal prepping on the weekend. And it took hours, and it was completely unsustainable. Now if I wanted a smoothie, I'd just buy the frozen spinach and berries and throw that thing together. Actually, I'm even lazier. I just have some edamame and hemp seeds for breakfast. I mean, that's it. Like, lower the bar. You could be making it too hard on yourself, right? Next up, I would say probably if health is a struggle street for someone, if they don't have health nailed yet, they will have other areas of their life that they are absolutely killing it. Maybe in their career, maybe as a mum or dad or friend, maybe a hobby. You'll have set standards for yourself, non-negotiable little rules, either consciously or unconsciously, in those areas of your life that you can model across into this other aspect of your life where you're not super successful yet. So say health. And I've actually done this with business. I realized all these standards and non-negotiables that worked really well for me in health, I could model across into business and have that same level of success, or at least start making progress in that same area. The final step, if you're really busy and you're struggling to prioritize your health, I would say really reconnect with your why. Your why in terms of why you want to improve your health, whatever it is, to rock around in that fit, strong body. That's a powerful way to advocate for the lifestyle, or just have more joy and happiness in your life, whatever it may be. Connect with that why. And I know often as vegans, we're really clear early days, and then maybe we disconnect a little bit as a form of self-preservation. I don't watch all the horrific videos that I used to because they just break my heart. However, if you feel like you're wavering a little bit on the actions you need to take to achieve that health goal, then sometimes you do maybe need to connect a little bit more with a little bit more intensity to your why, just to help make it easier for you to do on those struggle street days.
Wow, I can tell you have so much passion for this topic, and
100%.
just radiating out of you as you're talking about all those great solutions. I think that's going to be really helpful for people.
Definitely for me.
Yeah, good.
Amazing.
We all have those little things where, there's room for improvement.
For sure.
So you mentioned your podcast, the Healthification podcast. So what inspired you to start the show, and, what's it about, and how do you keep going? Because I think I read you've done like 900 episodes now.
Yeah, 13. Do you know, Mackenzie, I do what I love, right? I can basically only do what I love. And I loved podcasts.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I started a podcast. It's got to be about 10 and a half years ago now. And I did solo shows early days. It took me a few years to work up the courage, I don't know why, to do interviews. And now, like 900 plus podcasts later, I've interviewed, I keep going because I get to interview my heroes, right? Whoever I most respect in the world, or whatever topic I'm most interested in, I can reach out to this individual, and fair chance, very often they say yes. And I get to spend that one-on-one time with these individuals and then release it to the world. And that is my heart. I absolutely love it, as you guys must as well, because it's a passion project. It takes so much more time, money, and energy than someone would expect. However, personally, I'm surrounded by non-vegans. I left Sydney where there was a strong animal rights activist scene that I was keyed into. And now I live in a smaller town with hardly any vegans. And so getting to speak to like-hearted individuals every single week, like that is actually a form of self-care for me as well.
We always say at the end of, we get to the end of the interviews with people and we go, we do this podcast for us because it gives us so much energy, so much joy with speaking with all these people. We're only like 1 year in and 6 episodes, but no, we're actually up to 30 odd.
Nearly 30, yeah.
Actually, we're over 30 now. So, yeah, but it's probably going to take us a while to get to the 900 and whatever mark. So you're way ahead of us. But I love the fact that, reaching out to people, we're trying to reach out to more people that, well-known, not well-known, pretty much anybody who has an interesting story that we can share. So, yeah, we love that fact about our podcast.
I say it's like therapy for us.
Yeah, because we come in here and we're setting the gear up and we're going, oh, right, okay, yeah, tired. And then suddenly a switch goes on and we're like, hey, we're on. This is really cool.
Lights, camera, action.
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Now,
awesome.
In the past, you've spoken, and of course now you've spoken about transitioning from being an angry vegan to leading with love. So what was that turning point that turned you into the love vegan, not the angry vegan?
Rick, that was the toughest possible time in my life. I'd love to think that I might have found my own way there from an angry vegan who was consumed 24/7 by all the unnecessary animal cruelty and exploitation in the world. It was absolutely exhausting. I didn't find my own way there, really. I was forced there. And I guess the story starts maybe 6 or 7 years ago now when my dear mum rang me at Christmas time, and mum and dad were living in Noosa. I was living in Sydney, and I'd always fly home for Christmas. And she rang me and she said, Katie, I don't know what to do about Christmas because you're the animal rights activist vegan, your father's anti-vegan, and Christmas is all about the food. And I don't know what to do unless you want to mastermind a vegan feast and sell the family on it. And I was like, amazing. I will mastermind that feast. Perhaps you could sell the family on it. Anyway, feast went fab. I cooked 6 new dishes. They were all amazing. Mum was super grateful. And the day I was due to fly home to Sydney in the morning, she said, Katie, will you watch What the Health with me? Now, I'd been emotionally blackmailing my parents to watch What the Health ever since I turned vegan. And who'd have thought that didn't work? However, after the feast, Mum watched it with me. And as a nurse of 30 years, she was super impacted by our broken sick care system as opposed to our preventative health care system. She watched it and she said, I'm going to try this plant-based thing for 2 weeks. Fast forward several years. Mum's plant-based, basically vegan, listening to all my podcasts, watching all the most horrific documentaries, really becoming an advocate. We've become even closer. We had an amazing relationship, but my respect for her just went up a billion levels because she still lived with that anti-vegan, my father, who did not make it easy for her. And then 3.5 years ago now, I got the phone call from my dad that I always thought I'd get from my mum, because my dad's not that healthy in the way that he thinks or eats. And my mum was the most vibrant, beautiful, warm, giving person I have ever met. And I got the phone call, Kate, it's your mother. And I'd spoken to mum at 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning as I walked along the beaches in Sydney, and she was completely fine and normal. And by 3 p.m. Sunday, she was gone. She died. And as anyone listening who has lost the most important person to you knows, like the shock and grief is so overwhelming. You're so broken. I did not have any energy left in me for anything beyond that devastation. I certainly didn't have the energy to 24/7 be carrying around all that hate and sadness for non-vegans in the world. And also, with Mum, I had 0 regrets. We both knew how much we loved and respected each other. If that had been Dad, I would have had regrets, because my veganism, his lack of understanding in relation to it, my judgment of him, that was causing a huge block in our relationship. And so I kind of decided, not in the moment, because I was probably like just in this like fog of grief for months, but I gradually decided to consciously stop being the angry vegan and to lead with more love and compassion and deliciousness, which is actually what my mum did. She was amazing at just leading with deliciousness. Her whole life she did. And then when she became vegan, she transformed all the amazing recipes that had animal products into vegan alternatives. And that's what I try to do now, to honor her, and also because it's so much more effective and it's just more joyful for me as well, just not wasting all of that energy.
That's a very heartfelt story, and I kind of got goosebumps throughout because I was imagining myself in that situation because my parents aren't vegan either. And yeah, my mum is that person for me as well, that number one person. So yeah, that's a very tough thing to have had to experience, but also what a nice way to sort of have that message from your mum that you now carry on. And I'm assuming that's now helped your relationship with your dad and probably many others.
It has helped my relationship. I have to remind myself daily that he's not my mum, and I can't expect him to respond in the way that she did. You know, they're very different people. I absolutely have to have more realistic expectations with him, and I guess higher standards of compassion with myself. However, yeah, I remind myself, you know, every single day when my angry little animal rights activist heart wants to shake someone, because it does, you know, I remind myself of the way that mum used to do it, and that I can just continue on like her, light and love. And the journal's dedicated to her. All future printings of the journal will be. And yeah, just a more fun way to live.
I can sort of resonate, but I'm sort of between both worlds because I lost my two closest friends who were the ones who brought me into veganism. They died 6 months apart from each other. And I was that angry vegan. I blamed everybody who was not vegan for their deaths. And so I was the very angry vegan. Now I'm the mix of the two. So I still have the angry side, but I have the more empathetic side. So I sort of sway between the two. Sometimes I'm out there and it's like, yeah, power on, you know, I just want to hit you in the face with all the facts and all the footage. And then the other times I want to, you know, ease myself into the conversations. And I take a lot of value out of a man named Menke. I don't know if you know Menke.
I don't.
He's this great online activist who does amazing stuff on Instagram. And he has a free course that people can do called Vegan Pro. And it's all about activism and how you can use your words more carefully and your arguments more carefully. And it sort of changed a lot of the way I thought about how we do outreach. So yeah, look him up because he's really quite an amazing person. But moving ourselves on, in your experience, why is mindset often a bigger challenge than nutrition itself when transitioning to a vegan lifestyle?
Yeah. So, I mean, we think food's going to be the hard bit, as I hinted at, but we find the right people to follow. We find the recipes that we love. The thing with food is it's completely within your control. You know, coming from a personal training background for almost 2 decades now, food is something you have absolute control of, whether you think it or not, you do. However, the unnecessary animal exploitation and cruelty and suffering in the world, that is not completely within your control. And we have every right and reason, and it is so fair enough to be absolutely horrified by that and to feel that the situation is so urgent and change is so vital, and yet it's not completely within our control. And so managing our mindset surrounding that lack of control, yeah, I think that is just really, really challenging. Something I speak to a lot is overwhelm, right? And I used to be really good at overwhelm, and the way that you do overwhelm is you think of all the things and you specifically focus on those things that aren't within your control. And so now what I coach myself and my clients to do is to focus first only on what you can control and then take action on the next one most important step. And I think that is why finding the type of vegan activism or whatever it is for you, the type that feels right for your heart, that gives you energy rather than draining energy. And that might change over the period of time. It certainly did for me. And no right or wrong, but finding the thing that you can do so that you feel like you're having an impact, and you are, and so that it feels like it's sustainable. I think that's a really important step of that mindset component and of continuing to have hope, because when you're not taking action, it all feels a little bit hopeless and completely beyond your control, right? However, when you are taking action and you're having that impact, and I absolutely believe that as individuals, we can all have a huge positive impact. Again, it's just, I think it's a much more sustainable and dare I say, healthy approach.
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to ask for some actionable advice on how people can prioritize health while still advocating for the animals, but I think you've kind of summarized that, unless you have anything that you want to add.
Yeah. I mean, I think locking and loading in your week as non-negotiable appointments with yourself, those big rocks that keep you happy and healthy. I always used to, again, I come from this personal trainer background. I used to always focus on the healthy, right? The food, the exercise, even the sleep. The older I get, and now that I'm vegan, like the happy is just as important. So locking and loading those things that you need to do to stay happy as well as healthy. And I used to joke that for me, if I didn't get out for a long walk along the beaches in Sydney once a week, I'd be a little grumpy bum. I've got to inform you, now I need a walk twice a day or I'm a grumpy bum, right? So they're shorter walks, but I need to be out in nature, not listening to a podcast, just in nature to keep me happy and healthy. And it's different things for everyone. Journaling is another huge one for me. Find what those things are for you, make them non-negotiable in your calendar, and they're complete game changers. I would say you get into a virtuous cycle rather than a vicious cycle. We all know that cycle of not making time for the exercise, the nutrition, the sleep, and it's just this vicious cycle, right? However, when we make some keystone habits, I call them, so those habits that other healthy habits naturally form around, when you prioritize those, then you can turn that cycle to one that's working in your favor.
I love the fact that you talk about journaling, and I'm sitting here chuckling to myself because I spoke to Mackenzie about this before we came on. We had in episode 1 of season 2, Sarah from Compassion Creamery, and she brought up shit hobbies. And she said, things like, I'm a really bad drawer, but I love doing it. And it's like, so we were joking about creating this Facebook group called Shit Hobbies. Anyway, I messaged her last night and as I said, I've actually found my shit hobby. It's journaling, because I started a journal a month ago with a page, and I didn't actually add anything into it again until last night. So it's like a month apart. So I think that's my new shit hobby. So I've got to work harder on journaling.
I love that. And I've got to say, journaling was my most impactful habit of 2024, possibly ever. And, I was split way too thin in 2024. There wasn't enough of me to go around, and I was seeking calm and clarity. And I started a journaling habit every evening. And the 2 words that I'd write at the top of every page were calm and clarity. And that was what I was seeking. And the funny thing is, writing a page, no rules, no limit, in the journal each night was what brought me that calm and clarity. It's almost like self-coaching. It lets you let go of some of those annoying conversations, annoying people, those confrontations you want to have. You can write about them. I am such a fan of journaling for self-belief, for clarity, for planning your day. It's just such an impactful habit.
Well, this brings us now to
Your beautiful book.
This amazing book. Let me just put it closer.
Plant Positive Journal.
And it's just beautiful. It's just full of just amazing things in there. There's the journaling side that you can do in there. It's so beautifully laid out.
Yeah.
If you want to just quickly open it and show a couple of pages. So yeah, it's just a wonderful book. So you do talk about mindset and personal growth in your book. Can you tell us more about the book and what inspired you to actually create it?
Yeah, thank you. A number of years ago now, my dear mum bought me the most beautiful gratitude diary for Christmas. And it was this gorgeous book full of artwork. And I used it to plan my day to come the night before. And I loved it. And every month and week, the author, Melanie Spears from Giving Thanks, had these writings on the sun and moon and stars. And I never read them. And I thought, what if I created such a book where the writings were all about the most impactful actions to take to live a healthy plant-based lifestyle? And I chose plant-based because it's my little vegan Trojan horse, right? Obviously, I'm very vegan. However, I want this book to fly all around the world and infiltrate the non-vegan majority, the people who potentially just see it as a beautiful daily planner. And that's how I use it. And bit by bit, they start to trust me. They start to read the monthly writings. They start to look at the recipes because they look delicious. There's recipes every month. And bit by bit, I'm planting these little vegan seeds all around the world. That's the intention with the journal. It's dedicated to my dear mum, obviously. The goal is, it's number 2 that you've got right there. The goal is to reprint every couple of years. There's a digital version as well. And again, that's just another absolute venture of the heart.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sending it to me because it's the most beautiful book and I can't wait to use it because I am definitely in that overwhelm zone right now.
I'm going to steal it off you.
I'll give it to you after I've written in it.
Month 6 talks about overcoming overwhelm. So I've got you covered. And also I must say a lot of people comment it's too beautiful to write in. You've just got to scribble all over the thing. Write in it. I'll send you another one. Scribble.
That's the beauty of journals. You know, you've got to write in them, and that will actually
100%.
make the book even more personal. I've actually, on a little segue, I gave my mum, who's an artist, and she's now 89. I gave her a sketchbook, really nice sketchbook, and she sort of hasn't been doing a lot of art at all in the last few years, and probably since my dad passed away. And I said, please just start filling this with anything, just bad sketches, things that you want to write, to say, you know, anything that then my sister and I can take that with us and look back and we can show our, I have 2 stepdaughters. My sister has daughters and children, grandchildren, and we can show them and say, hey, this is your granny. This is our mum. You know, this is what we remember. She hasn't done anything in it, and I feel quite let down at this point. I'm going to try and keep pushing her to do something, and that then makes me feel like my shit hobby has to become a good hobby. I need to start doing this much more.
That is such an interesting point, and I love it. And maybe you just need to break the seal, like fill in one day with her. But I so resonate because when my dear mum died and I went through her stuff, I was like, looking desperately for little handwritten notes, just anything I could, even if they were a shopping list. Like I was just looking for stuff. And if she had, she never got to see the Plant Positive Journal, even version 1. I was working on it. It wasn't released when she died. But if she had that full of her own writings and feelings and what she's grateful for, there's space for that every day, that would have been an absolute goldmine. I would have loved it.
Yeah, that's so true. So powerful. Okay.
I'm feeling a little tad overwhelmed here at the moment.
We can take a breath together. Okay. So your book is full of lots of tips, but for anyone listening who isn't vegan yet or new to plant-based, could you give maybe 3 top tips to make the transition easier and more enjoyable?
Yeah, absolutely. I'll get to food very soon. However, my starting point is always that alignment. So the clarity on why you are looking to make this huge lifestyle change, even if you're not like I'm going to go all in, just get really clear on your why and align it with your most important values and beliefs. So again, your values are those emotional states that you're naturally drawn to. For me, they're freedom and integrity. And when I first became a personal trainer, there was no way I was going to not be in shape if that was my job, right? Because that was aligned with integrity. And it just made it non-negotiable and easy to always prioritize my food and exercise. So that's how it works. So get that clarity and alignment before you even jump in, right? That is the foundation. Number 2, I would look at the meals that you already eat that are almost vegan. You're nearly there. Don't start with cauliflower steak, but that whatever it is, the cereal, the oats, the whatever you have at breakfast where you swap to plant milk and plant-based protein powder, whatever it may be, the things that are all almost there. The chicken stir fry goes to tofu stir fry. The beef curry goes to lentil curry. It's easier than you think, but don't start out too hard. The third tip, which I still stick to today, is food prep over meal prep. Early days, I made it really hard for myself. I prepped all my green smoothies and complete curries and everything every single Sunday, and it took hours, and the meals weren't nearly as delicious or diverse as what they are now. Now, I just prep a few individual components or pillars that are completely interchangeable, and so I get so much more variety. So I'll always do, and you can pick just 2. Don't get overwhelmed by all 4, but I tend to share with my clients, prep each weekend a green fibrous veg. So maybe that's your kale slaw or your roasted broccoli, whatever it may be. A plant protein, it can be as simple as lentils en masse or chickpeas cooked up from scratch, or as exciting as plant-based burgers, which I love and make every single week. Next up pillar would be a dairy substitute or sauce. Really easy way to jazz up any meal fast. My go-tos each week are a hummus and vegan mayo made from scratch. However, early days, I loved vegan pesto, and tofu ricotta is pretty amazing. And the final pillar would be a starchy carb or other sort of substantial carbohydrate. Bake some sweet potatoes en masse on the weekend, or a big batch of quinoa. Just a really simple way to make it easy for you to win during your busy week if you're time poor, Rick. And, just to make those meals delicious and diverse, because long term, to stick with it, it really does have to be all about the deliciousness.
Yeah.
Well, I think we were about to ask you about how, for people too busy and time poor like me and like Mackenzie, we were going to ask you about your strategies, but I think you've actually just answered that beautifully. I'm sitting here thinking, wow, there's so much more I could be doing. But this is really just wonderful. We just love hearing everything that you're doing, and you've been just an amazing fountain of knowledge here today. So, but on a personal point, what's next for you? Have you got any upcoming projects, events, or podcast milestones that you're excited about? 900 and how many podcasts?
13.
Whoa. Okay.
What's next for me? I'm really digging in with the one-on-one coaching, Thrive with Plants. I absolutely love that. And also the other thing that we haven't even touched on that it took me too long to realize the importance of is community. It can feel really isolating, especially when your loved ones aren't on the same page with a vegan lifestyle or more plant-positive lifestyle. And so I created a community on School called Plant Positive. And that is where I'm spending a lot of my time these days. School is a platform for communities, which is basically the opposite of social media. So it's a place where, and no offense, Mackenzie, it's a place where there's no hate or ads or, those vegan trolls that there can be on social media. So I am spending a lot of time building relationships and communities inside of Plant Positive on School. And that is something I am absolutely loving. And that takes a lot of my time.
That sounds like the perfect place to be. No offense taken. The trolls and the hate is the worst part of my job on social media.
I'm going to have to look up School. I've never actually heard of that. So being a old boomer, I need to get with the times.
We will put the link to your school community and the link to your book in the show notes so people can easily find that. Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you.
So what is the best way for people to connect with you online apart from school? How else can they get in touch with you, your website, etc.?
Thank you. Website's the best place. That is strongbodygreenplanet.com. There you will find the Plant Positive Journal, the Healthification podcast, and all my social media links. I'm usually Strong Body Green Planet. So yeah, that is the prime place for me.
Well, we can't thank you enough for being here with us today, this morning, and getting up like we did to get this podcast done. We're so grateful for your time, and you are an inspiration. And we just love the fact that we've had this wonderful opportunity to speak with you. So thank you so much, Kate, for being with us.
Yeah, sorry. Maybe cut this little glitch out. Having a brain glitch. No, I was just going to add as well, this is probably one of the first episodes where we've really touched on health. So it's really nice to have that holistic approach to not just, physical health, but also mental health, community, and all of the amazing strategies that you've given to our listeners. I think this is going to be one of those episodes that people just come back to again and again for all of the great resources that you've provided. So thank you so much, Kate.
Oh, my huge pleasure. Thank you so much, Rick, Mackenzie. I've had an absolute blast. I knew that I would. I love coming on vegan podcasts. So this has been so much fun. And thank you so much for everything that you guys do as well. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you again for being with us. And folks, what another inspiring episode. Every episode we come off saying how inspiring, how amazing. And this one hasn't let us down at all. So thank you again, Kate, for being with us. Thank you, everybody, for viewing and watching. Please don't forget to like, subscribe, share with all your friends. Build your community. I love that message, and it's something that I've talked about before, is having your community, because we need all the support we can get out there in this crazy world. So thanks for being with us, folks, and we look forward to seeing you again on the Vegan Compass podcast. Bye now.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Vegan Compass podcast, unveiling truths, inspiring change.
Be sure to follow us on social media at @thevegancompass_podcast. See you next time.